see you, my friend.
Thank you. You too, buddy. Take care.
Good afternoon or good evening. Who do we have in the house? Let me just get my glasses because I can't see a thing. I saw Shamir, right? Good. Okay. Hey guys. So.
Good evening, Professor.
Good evening. So good evening from wonderful Inwood in Manhattan. I will be teaching from home today, and so what's going to happen today is that Professor Carlos is uploading, as we speak, he's uploading the lesson from this morning. There was an interesting discussion that you might want to listen to. And meanwhile, I'm just going to go through the nuts and bolts of this homework assignment that I sent you. You should have received that by now either through E360, and I'm just going to go through the mechanics of it, basically. And if you want to sort of delve deeper into a discussion I had this morning with the morning group of students about structure and design of music, i.e. how it sounds and how it's sort of structured, then I think the recording from this morning, you should really watch that. That's on YouTube. So it's basically the same lesson as today, but I'm just going to do the nuts and bolts today. And if you're interested in that discussion, it will be to be found there. I think it was, I enjoyed it. I think the students did too. But strictly speaking, let me just see, Carlos, okay. Yeah, so Professor Carlos is just saying that you can find that on YouTube. That there should be a link on E360 for this course to that video. Okay, so here goes the nuts and bolts. I'm going to do the example in C major, and then I'm going to do a whole bunch of keys. Some of them will be actually the same as the keys for your homework assignment, but this is going to fly off we're going to start off very gently, get all of you guys caught up to speed with music theory, etc., etc. So the first example, it may help. It's not a necessity, but it may help if you actually have the homework assignment in front of you. I don't know. Maybe that will help, but as I said, it's not a necessity because I'm going to do basically the same thing. Here is a C major triad in root position. It's as basic as it gets. Now, when I invert this, so the inversion of a triad means that we take the root of the chord and we put that up here, and then we keep the two other notes here. Let me just see if I need to let anyone in. I think we're all good. People are joining as we speak. This is, as we talked about last time we met, this is where the semester ended. And we're getting some new people attached to this course, etc., etc., etc. There's no problem in this. And as we then talked about, the actual better way to do this is to be able to invert both outer voices. So this one here we can see goes up there, but this one here is staying the same, meaning the chordal root, the chordal third, and the chordal fifth. The chordal root moves up to the upper voice. So as musicians, when we are reading music, what we want to do is to look first at the bottom of a harmony. And then immediately thereafter, we want to go to the top. So we want to scan with our eye when we're sight reading. We want to see what's in the lowest sounding note, and we want to see what's in the top. So what I propose, or what experience has shown to be a good thing, is that if we put the chordal third up here, then when we invert this to first inversion, we can also invert the soprano. So this one here goes up to here. I'm just going to add some stems to it because that makes it a little bit easier to follow. And then I can invert the top voice and put that down here. And then this one stays the same. Do you understand this? This is pretty much the exercise that we're going to be doing today, and let's say until this exercise is really thoroughly absorbed. Now I'm going to translate this here. So that is a pathway to get to here. This is, let's say, that's in parentheses now. That's an old model of what we're doing. Do you understand? Because the voicing is not ideal. We can only really follow one of the voices. This procedure here, as I outlined in the homework assignment, is called voice exchange. So VX, voice exchange. So what that means is that the lowest voice becomes the highest voice in the next chord, and the highest voice becomes the lowest voice in the next chord. Do you see what I mean? They sort of swap functions there, or swap places. That's basically what we're doing. When I translate that, so let me erase this because, you know, I only have a small board. So I'm going to erase this. And then I'm going to start over, but I'm going to start over in 4 parts, meaning in SATB. Soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. So I'm going to write out a root position, C major triad here, and I'm going to put the chordal third in the soprano. Always start with the bass, and then immediately go to the soprano. Do not just stack upwards, because what's going to happen is that all the voices are not going to line up in a singable way. So if you want to write for chorus, that's really what it's about. SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, is choral writing. And that's incredibly useful to have if you're working, say, in church, for instance, right? And if you're a singer, that's just the tool of the trade that you're going to be dealing with all the time. So first the bass, and then immediately after that, you go to the soprano. If you have the root in the bass, you put the third on top. If you have the third in the bass, let's invert these 2 voices now. I'm going to have now root, here's the third, and the third is obviously the same up here, and I'm going to have the root here now. So we can see that these are the 2 notes in a chord, the chordal root and the chordal third, that are doing this exchanging bit, the voice exchange. That's a really, it's a great way to sort of unpack what is happening in tonal music, basically. Okay, and now we can see that all the other voices are basically staying put here. That they provide some sort of stable framework. Not only is this very, very easy to sing, it also sounds really good. I know our piano is not quite in tune, but we can hear that if I just do the outer voice, you probably heard that. You can have these passing tones, right? So we hear all the time, or if I just take a key that I know is in tune, this sounds like a good old church hymn right there, right? So when we're harmonizing that, what is actually taking place is that the 2 outer voices are swapping functions, basically. They're switching place, or they're doing a voice exchange. And when I harmonize that, you hear that sounds like a beginning that we've heard many, many times. We've heard it many times because it works really well. It's a good way to treat tonal harmony, and it's a principle that actually works on so many different levels. So when you have that sort of overview of tonal harmony, and you can transfer that back to the development part of training, then you've got something that really works. You know, it takes a lot of experience to go back and see what should we have done. Yeah, it's like our childhood. When we get to adulthood, we can say, oh, what should my parents have done differently when I was a child, right? Unfortunately, that's not the way life works. But at least as parents, we can sort of try to undo some of the mistakes that were made onto us. We will make our own mistakes. Don't worry about that. If you have kids, you will know that they're going to tell you that you that you made your own mistake. But at least the mistakes that we do know, we can try to avoid. So this is a very good beginning. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a different key, right? And you'll see that the principle is the same. This is basically the homework that I've assigned to you. And just do as many as you can and try to see how, after this lesson, how you fare with this stuff in homework. Okay, I'm going to do, let's say I'm going to do D flat major. So this is C major, yeah? Now I'm going to do D flat major. And basically the principle is the same. I'm going to do a B flat here, right? And I'm in my head, I'm now just constructing my D flat major triad. Here's D flat, here's my major third. That's 2 whole steps, right? You see, whole step, that, and then my minor third up from F is A flat. So that's my chord. I can write it up here too. I can say D flat, major third up 2 whole steps is F, and a whole step and a half step up is A flat. So there's basically my triad right there. That's sort of what I did in the beginning of the other exercise in C major. I just erased it again because I just need to know that these are the notes that constitutes a triad on D flat. So I'm going to take the root, that's this one, and I'm going to take the chordal third, that's that one, and I'm going to put that up here, either in this position or up here. I mean, since there's no real sort of context for this, I might as well put it up here. Why not? And then I'm going to invert it right away. I'm going to do this. Say that this one here, so the first becomes the last, and vice versa. So I'm going to say my F here. So this basically, now I already put that. Let me see if I have people in the waiting room. It's not the case. We're good. So that's basically the outer voices there. And all I need to do is to fill in the inner voices. This is a very, very good and efficient way of writing. Just write out the outer voices, the lowest voice, and then the highest voice. And then if you want to invert it, just flip them around. Okay? So my A flat goes in here. It stays here. It's the sort of stabilizing force. If you read the instructions for my homework, you'll see that I'm sort of expanding a little bit upon that the fifth inner chord is really one of the stabilizing elements. It doesn't really do anything that the root doesn't do just as well. So it's one of the notes that we can omit if we don't, if it happens to not fit into the melodic patterns that we're writing, then we can omit it, because we do need a third in the chord, right? In a triad, we need a root, but we don't necessarily need a fifth if it's difficult to get to. Let's say you have to leap from one of the voice parts to get the fifth, you're better off without. And then I'm simply just doubling the root here at the octave. Now you may say, and you may have a good point, that all this is the same as that one, where everything is transposed up a half step, right? So, which is true, but that's not necessarily the best way to generate everything, because if you have to write everything out in C major and then transpose any number of half steps up or down, then we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem here, right? It's almost like you only know to find your way around Manhattan if you go through Times Square, right? I know I made this analogy before because I think it's one we all relate to, right? We have to know what's up and down in any part of the city to truly be able to find our way in an efficient way, in an efficient manner, without having to go through a process that we already know. You see? Same thing here. So think out the process. It's a process between the chordal root and the chordal third. And then you just plug in the fifth as this sort of element around which all these other notes are sort of behaving. And we can see that certainly the alto is going to be very easy to sing because you're just repeating a note. And the tenor is also going to be very easy to sing because you're just repeating a note. And everything else sort of colors than the movement of the music. Remember that. Okay. Let me do the same with a diminished triad, for instance. That's not, you can't have the key of, the diminished triad doesn't constitute a key. So there's no key saying C sharp diminished, for instance. That doesn't exist as a key, but it does exist as a chord. And very, very often you will see, for instance, C sharp diminished, you will see that as a chord that is then inverted and where the outer voices are behaving exactly like that. Let me do that. That may be part of the homework, I'm not really sure, I can't remember. But it doesn't matter. So C sharp diminished. C sharp diminished, that's how you would write that out. C sharp and then a circle. Little circle means diminished. And I'm going to start my triad by plugging in a C sharp. Right there. And then I'm going to do, so what is a diminished triad? These are just prompt questions that you can ask yourself. What is a diminished triad? It is a root and then two minor thirds stacked on top of each other. Use whatever paper you need to calculate this. You say C sharp. A minor third is a step and a half. So a step and a half up from C sharp. Let's take, or a half step and a whole step, half step. It doesn't really matter how you calculate it because you're going to end up with the same note. Let me do it with a half step first. So half step up from C sharp is D. And then a whole step up from D is E. That's my first minor third. My next minor third is also going to be a step and a half, but this time up from E. Half step up from E is F. A whole step up from F is G. So there is the note material that I need to distribute into 4 parts. So far, so good? Perfect. So chordal root, then I take the chordal third and I put that up on top. Since there's no, I understand that if you're a soprano, you'll say, this is a very high note. That's not, and that's true, but that's not really our concern right now. Since there's no context per se, we're not really concerned about what E it is. We just want enough space so that we have space to write our notes in between in these different triads, yeah? And so the third is up here. I'm now going to invert them. I'm just going to write across and invert them. So I'm going to go up to E here, and I'm going to go down to C sharp here. Now I inverted the outer voices. All I need to do is to plug in the missing notes in. You see how easy this is? Very, very easy. The E is already gone. It's here and it's here. So I don't need to worry about that. All I need to do is to plug in the G, and it goes in both ways here. And then if I have a triad consisting of 3 notes, as all triads do, I need to double one of them, right? And the first note to double is the root. That's the best note to double, because if you want a C sharp chord, no matter if it's C sharp diminished or augmented or minor, major, whatever it is, you want as much C sharp as you can get in that chord. And that means that's the note to double. Bingo. That is C sharp diminished. This one will be C sharp diminished here, and C sharp diminished over E or slash E. They're called both. We don't need to worry about, at least not right now, what this chord is called in the professional language. It's called a 6/3 chord, but we don't need to worry about that right now. That's not so important. The only thing that I want you to be able to do are the mechanical bits of inversion. Questions so far?
So, Professor. Oh.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So So the concept I get here is that, as you said earlier, the fifth always remains consistent throughout in this exercise.
This exercise, yes. You just said it, my friend. That is exactly right.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a different set of circumstances right now.
Yes, definitely.
Good old familiar faces here. Some new ones, some old ones that I remember from the classroom. That was really nice. Okay, guys. So very good. Let's just say that for further reinforcement, just study the instructional video that Professor Carlos uploaded. It's going to be on your. That's going to be your sort of go-to companion, so to speak, right? And if, as always, as we talked about before, if reading the notes in different classes, if that presents a problem, the best thing to do is to do the flashcard method of just reinforcing these different notes. There are different websites that are also actually listed in the syllabus. The one I know best is called teoria.com or teoria.com. It's Spanish. Teoria.com. You can choose language, English or Spanish, but you basically set that to clef reading. There's a section called clef reading. Whoops. And what that would do, basically like in the olden days when you sort of got together two students and you just had flashcards and you picked up a flashcard and said C#4 and you had to sort of draw that or figure out where that was. And so for every question there was an answer that was either correct or incorrect. The great thing about these computer programs is that they don't run out of steam. They'll keep going on until you bleed, right? And that's a good thing. And with this kind of exercise, not with the course really, but with just identifying notes, because for some students, the main problem is not to understand this, but actually to read the notes in the different clefs. And that's an easy one to cure. I mean, easy for the fact that there's a correct and an incorrect answer. C#3 in this case, or C#4 is that note, and it's only that note. It exists obviously in two different clefs, but if you set it to the bass clef, which is most often the problem for people to read, and most of that is understandable for the fact that most of our students are singers and most of our students are female. So female singers simply don't sing out of the bass clef. But you can already sing, right? You know what I mean? So if you want to expand your area of professional activity, you have to be, in addition to being a good singer, which you already are perhaps, you have to have the ability to conduct the chorus, to lead a chorus, and to arrange for a chorus. That's where the real jobs lie, because that will set you apart from any number of colleagues who are also good singers. But if you have these professional skills, and let alone that you can also teach with this stuff, teaching is far and away, one of the more steady forms of professional work that musicians have. And it's not a new thing. And it's not because, let's say, you can't make enough money as a performer. I mean, Bach taught, he was a pretty good musician, I would say. Mozart taught. And, you don't need any further references for that. Teaching has always been a part of what musicians do. And so there are many, many, many programs you can come out to where you can teach other musicians how to read music and thereby have access to a level of work that you couldn't have if you couldn't read, for instance. Say, for instance, recording. You may think that the recording industry is completely different from sort of academic professional music. It's not. It's the same thing. If you're hired to play with a famous group, regardless of whether that's a gospel group or jazz outfit or whatever, they will not rehearse with you by ear for 2 weeks until you can play all the tracks. They will not. They will put you a set of lead sheets in front of you, and that's how that works. And particularly the recording industry. If you're recording jingles, for instance, you'll be reading all day long. And that's where the money lies. Just saying. And this is a good time to do that in. You know, if you're good at a particular style, for instance, if you have a recognizable voice that is marketable as well, you can potentially make a lot of money. But you have to be able to read. There's no way around that. They're not going to put you in the studio at $1,500 an hour, and first they're going to rehearse with you until you can play it sort of by ear. That's not how it works. I mean, for understandable reasons, right? So teaching this stuff and being able to do it, that's the key right now. So let me just conclude this lesson. I know it's short and sweet, but I think it's enough, really, unless you have questions that I need to address. I think we have enough. The first assignment here, just do your best. I want you to get your feet wet, so to speak. And I want you to feel that this is not something that you're going to get some sort of nasty sheet of red markings and a D grade or something like that. That's not really how I roll. Those of you who know me especially from the classroom, you'll know me better. Actually, July will be the one who knows me the best at this point, actually. So you would probably know that all I want is for you to be able to do your professional stuff, and at the end of your studies with us, you'll come out and be able to work as professional musicians and teachers. That's the goal. The goal, I mean, let's say, if in this process we also have some interesting conversations along the way, that'll be good too. But the key ingredient for me as a fellow professional, if I may, is that to give you the nuts and bolts, the tools to create a music career. You know, talk is cheap. It's sometimes good and it can inspire us. But at the end of the day, if we can't do this, then it's just talk, and that is cheap. Okay, guys. So we'll see you Monday again, right? Yep. So Monday for theory, but Wednesday for music history with Professor Carlos. He's getting better. I just saw him just before this class. As I told you on Wednesday, he has COVID, and he's been really struggling for more than 2 weeks to get rid of this stuff. And his entire in-law family all have it. And it's terrible, especially the father has been very, very ill, and he's in the hospital for the second time now. He was in for a week. He came home, had oxygen support, and he had to go in again, but he's slowly recovering. But this is no joke. Don't trust anyone who want to tell you that this is a hoax. No, it ain't a hoax, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. So when a young guy like Carlos, who's fit and who's 35 and in good health, good spirit, everything, if he can go down like I covered all his lessons last week. If that's possible for a guy like him to be so sick, then it's very, very real. I mean, I had no doubt about that, but some people apparently have some doubts. I don't know why they have doubts, but 400,000 plus victims of this terrible, terrible virus. Anyway, just be super careful. I know you will be, and we'll get that together. Okay, guys?
Amen. Thank you.
Have a good night. Spend the time doing the homework, right? And just
good night, Professor.
Whenever you feel you're ready, just snap a photo on your camera or your iPad. I think we all have an iPad, and you can submit it to my cell phone, just as in the email with the assignment itself. There's the link to that.
Okay.
And if you need some feedback before you sort of officially submit your homework assignment, that's cool too. You know, I'll just say, no, here you go wrong or whatever. I think we can do this though.
Thank you.
I have a question.
How are you doing? Rebecca, you okay?
I'm what?
Anyway.
All right. Good night.
Night. So much.
Okay. See you later, guys.
Hey,
All right.
All
right.
the
Good night.
best.
All right.
Can I ask you something? Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
So the class is over, right?
Yes.
How is it working? Because it's my first one today. They are doing one day Lars and another day Carlos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is my first class too. So today is Lars, and on Wednesday is Carlos. So theory today and music history on Wednesday.
Uh-huh. And the schedule says that the class goes until 9. So it would depend on the day?
It depends on the day. It depends on the instructor.
Oh, okay. What was
Yeah.
he today? I kind of lost everything. What was he teaching?
Oh well, what he was teaching was the homework.
Oh,
If you
okay.
see, yeah, he just was going over the homework. I missed the first class, but if I could like just give you a simplification of what it was. So all we doing is exchanging the voices. So it's called voice exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing is you're taking the root note from the original chord, and the next chord would be an inversion of that root chord. So for example, if we were to do C E G, right? C E G, which is the C major chord. I'm doing a triad. So what he did was for the next chord, C would be, instead of C being the root chord, C would be the inverted. I mean the root note. C would be the inverted note in the opposite chord. You get it? So C. So it would be C. It would be C, G, and E for the first chord, and the second chord would be E, G, and C. So by the time as you finish, you should be able to crisscross the top note on the first chord to the second note, the top note on the first chord to the first note on the second chord. So it's like you're doing an X.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like what he was giving in the last semester. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
kind
Okay. So
I think
you had him last semester?
Yes, I had him.
Oh, okay. You have an accent. Where are you from?
Brazil.
Ah, okay. So you know Professor Glocko?
Is he Brazilian?
Yes, he is.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is. But all right, no problem, Audrey. So good seeing you and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see each other in the class.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.